We're live, we are live. Yes, Crown Jewel has just gone off the air. Roman Reigns is still your Universal Champion. No titles change hands on the show tonight, which, to be honest, was expected, right? I think everyone thought that was going to be the case. There wasn't any championship changes. It was rumored, it was reported coming into the show, actually, that there wasn't going to be any title changes tonight, and that's what we got. What we did get, though, despite not getting any championship changes, what we did get was overall a pretty damn good show, it must be said. I think in terms of what we've seen in the past from some of these, from a lot of these Saudi shows, I think back to, obviously, the Brothers of Destruction versus D-Generation X. I think back to Goldberg versus The Undertaker. I think back to Goldberg versus The Fiend. I think back to Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet. I think back to, the list goes on and on, doesn't it? The list goes on and on of just these matches that were just a mess. Just an absolute mess. So, overall, it must be said, I did think the show was a good show. And obviously, you could look into all these different facets of it when it comes to, obviously, the political nature. Should they even be out there with the first place? All this kind of stuff. I don't necessarily want to get into that. I'm with you. I am absolutely with you when it comes to stuff like that. But we do have a show to discuss here. So you can let me know in the live chat what your thoughts are on tonight's show. I never like to call these things a review or anything like that because I feel like they're more of just a discussion, more of a reaction. That's what we kind of go with here. Just a reaction, just like a what did we just see kind of situation. So we're going to go through all the matches, say what we thought about them. We're also going to talk about where we think it's going to go for the future, because specifically when you come to the main event, certainly you look at that main event and you think, right, where are they going with that one? Because this definitely isn't the end. And we'd heard that as well. We had heard that coming into this one, that this wasn't going to be the end for Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. If anything, it was going to be the beginning of this new version of the rivalry that involves Paul Heyman. When it comes to the answer of where do Paul Heyman's allegiances lie, we didn't get an answer tonight. We didn't. Which is interesting because they built up for weeks and weeks and weeks. To be honest, ever since SummerSlam. So we're talking about the end of August, beginning of September. So for the last, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, last 2 months or so, they have built up. Where do Paul Heyman's allegiances lie? What's Paul Heyman? What is his thought process? Is he Roman Reigns' special counsel, or is he Brock Lesnar's advocate? What did we get tonight? We didn't get an answer. We didn't get an answer tonight. So that's interesting. But we still do have the same Universal Champion, that being Roman Reigns. So overall, broad strokes, I did think the show delivered. I thought the show was. I thought the show had good matches. In terms of being newsworthy, not really. not a newsworthy show, but I thought that overall the matches were good. I think the match of the show was the opener. The Hell in a Cell match I thought was tremendous. There were some matches in there that were a bit low. I think, in fairness, I have to give credit to the crowd there in Riyadh. They love their pro wrestling. There's no doubt about that. They love their, specifically WWE. They love their WWE. The crowd is red hot. I don't know if they know properly the definition of awesome, because they chanted "This is awesome" for every single match. Even the Zelina Vega Doudrop match, which, to be honest with you, was a dud. They were chanting "This is awesome" for that. But credit to them. They enjoyed themselves. Why wouldn't they? Coming out of a pandemic, back having a stadium show, seeing Brock Lesnar's first match in nearly 20 months. Why wouldn't you think that's awesome? So they certainly enjoyed themselves. Be sure to smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I think I'll just do a quick subscriber check before we get into the matches. We are on 5,346. So we're only 4 subscribers away from 5,350. I'll get there in the end. It's because I've been talking for like 5 hours at this point. So, right, let's talk about the matches, because there are quite a few matches to get into for this one. So, the first match was on the pre-show, and it was the Usos versus the Hurt Business. To be honest with you, it went 10 minutes. I was surprised with this one that this was announced anyway. I really didn't get it. I know you've seen on Raw in like recent weeks the Usos have been showing up, and has there even been that much of an interaction between them and the Hurt Business? I don't recall that there really was. I know that we had a situation a couple of weeks ago where it was Big E, Reigns, and Lashley. There hasn't been a ton of interaction between those two factions. And so when this was announced of, okay, there's going to be a match on the kickoff show, I was like, why? Why have the match on the kickoff show? Look, it was fine. It went over 10 minutes, so it did get a significant amount of time. The Usos won because why wouldn't they win? They're the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, so that's to be expected as well. But the match was fine. Kickoff show, fine. It's weird when it comes to the Usos because obviously, big fan of the Usos. How can you not be? But you do look at Jey Uso, don't you, and think, that guy was competing for the Universal Championship last year. That guy won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, whatever that means. But he did win that earlier this year. And he's competing in a tag team now. And I don't want to say, like, that's a step down because it's not. But I do look at that and sort of say, man, you know, this at one point, I was looking at him being like, this guy can be a singles if he wants. He can compete for Intercontinental Championships or United States Championships or whatever. You know what I mean? But the match itself was fine. As expected, it was a fine match. We'll go straight into the main card, which kicked off with the Hell in a Cell match between Seth Rollins and Edge. Now, this match went the longest of any match on the show, went nearly 30 minutes, went 27 minutes and 40 seconds. Brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I think it's the best match that they have done between each other so far. It's the trilogy of matches. That's what they kept saying, right? This is the trilogy. This is the finale of the trilogy. Here, this is the trilogy between Rollins and Edge. Of course, you had the first match at SummerSlam, which Edge won. Then you had the second match, which was in Madison Square Garden, which Seth Rollins won, and he sent Edge off on a stretcher after hitting the stomp. So this was the third one. And again, coming into it, I was very happy that this was a Hell in a Cell match because that's what a Hell in a Cell match should be. A Hell in a Cell match, for me, shouldn't have a pay-per-view, right? Shouldn't have its own pay-per-view. A Hell in a Cell match should be, you have a rivalry. It's a vicious, it's a personal, it's a gritty rivalry. It's been going for a while. That's how you finish the rivalry. That's what Hell in a Cell, for me, always should be. So I was more than happy to have this match as a Hell in a Cell match. And because there was so much emotion in it, there was so much baggage, if you will, in it because of the rivalry that they had, that they still have. It worked, and it was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. Definitely one of Rollins' better Hell in a Cell matches. He has had a couple in WWE. Of course, the last one he had was the Fiend one. And it was not hard to be better than that one, was it? But that was, the match tonight was much, much better. Edge gets the victory. They basically had a sort of, there was a ton of bumps in there, and I won't try and recall them all because I wouldn't do it justice. One of the bumps I really enjoyed was that Seth Rollins was climbing to the top rope. A table was set up on the outside of the ring, still in the cell. You know, when the cage comes down, it surrounds the ring, there's a bit of space. And the table was set up outside of the ring, and Rollins is going up for what I think would probably be some form of like a Phoenix Splash or something like that. He goes to the top rope. Edge shoves him off. And instead of just going through the table, which is a tremendous bump anyway, it's a bad bump to take anyway. Instead of just going through the table, it's these little details that I just loved. Instead of going through the table, he bounced off the cell. Like Edge pushed him and he bounced off the cell and then fell through the table. And it's little things like that I looked at and went, that's tremendous. That's tremendous. That's just, it made the bump even more brutal. I don't know if it made it more difficult to take or whatever, but I thought it was very good. I did think it was very good. So that was a great bump. You had Edge take a sunset flip powerbomb through a table in the ring. You had the closing moments of the match where Rollins was in control, and he wraps, like in every Hell in a Cell match. This time it wasn't a toolbox, it was a tool bag. You know, sometimes in those Hell in a Cell matches, they get out the toolbox from underneath the ring. And inside the toolbox is usually like a screwdriver or some pliers or a wrench or whatever, or, you know, whatever it may be. But this time it was a tool bag. There was a tool bag underneath the ring. And Rollins pulls out of the tool bag, he pulls a chain, and he wraps a chain around his foot, his boot. And he super kicks Edge in the face. And obviously the story there is that Edge has the neck injury, obviously, when he lost at Madison Square Garden. They stretched him out after he got the stomp and all that kind of stuff. So Rollins had been working on Edge's neck throughout the match, punching his neck, doing all that kind of stuff. So he wraps the chain around his boot, and he super kicked Edge stiff in the face, by the way. You know, like sometimes they'll be like, be careful with Edge, be careful with the neck and all that kind of stuff. Man, he super kicked his face in. with the chain. And then it looked like he was going to go for the stomp onto the steel chair, onto Edge. Edge picks up the chair, turns it sideways, goes straight into the groin into Seth Rollins. Maybe no more babies for Becky Lynch with Seth Rollins. So it goes through, goes into the groin of old Rollins. And then Edge, after being able to sort of counter all that, gets up and manages to hit a stomp of his own onto Rollins. Actually, before that, he even get the Glasgow Grin, didn't he? He did the Glasgow Grin onto Rollins as well. Got the wrench, put it in Rollins' face, all that kind of stuff. And then he just stopped. And everyone went, why is he stop? Why is he stopping? What did he stop for? What did he stop? And then he hit Rollins' move and hit the stomp onto Rollins, gets the victory. After the match, he gets a big applause, standing ovation. I thought it was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. I thought it was the match of the show. I thought it was the best match on the show. And it's interesting to think what they're going to be doing now, isn't it? Where do you think they're going to go now? Because they hyped it up as this was going to be the final. This was going to be the final meeting between these two guys, right? This is going to be the final meeting. It's a trilogy. No more matches. The issue is they're both on Monday Night Raw. Who's to say that Edge and Rollins won't square off one more time? WWE, historically, they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves in these kind of situations. They look at stuff like this and they're like, wow, maybe they can have one more, especially with the ratings of Raw. You can't tell me if in a couple of weeks' time, the ratings of Monday Night Raw aren't doing well, which, by the way, they won't be, that WWE isn't tempted to go, you know that match we did 3 times, the trilogy that ended at Crown Jewel? Maybe we have one more. Maybe we have one more. TV main event, we build to it, pop a rating on Monday night because we need it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. As far as what do both guys do, look, I would like to see a situation whereby either Edge challenges for the WWE Championship against Big E. I think that's a possibility. Rollins as well. But Big E needs challenges on Monday Night Raw. And he needs established challenges as well because he needs to beat them to establish himself as a credible champion. So I think both guys, even though Edge was the one to win the match here, I think both guys could be the ones to challenge for the WWE Championship. Ultimately, though, that isn't going to happen anytime soon. Because what's next month? Next month's November. Next month's Survivor Series. Heading into Survivor Series, it's Raw versus SmackDown. So we know we're going to get Big E versus Roman Reigns. So I don't really know what's next for Rollins and Edge. Maybe it's a case of Edge not being on television for a while. That's a possibility. He might compete at Survivor Series, though, considering that Survivor Series is in the Barclays Center. So maybe Edge will captain Monday Night Raw. Maybe he'll be the captain of Monday Night Raw as they head into Survivor Series. I could see something like that happening as well. So it was a tremendous match, great match, and easily the match of the show. If you did enjoy Crown Jewel, though, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned before, we're about something like 3 subscribers away from 5,354 we were. Oh, we're over it now. we're over 5,350. So appreciate everyone that has subscribed. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. See if we can get to 5,400. See if we can get 50. And smash a like on the like button as well. Let's move on to the next match, which was Mansur versus Mustafa Ali. They have to have the Mansur match on the show. It is what it is, isn't it, I suppose? You know, Mansur has appeared on every Saudi show. He has won on every Saudi show. If there's one man that actually could beat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship in Saudi Arabia, it would actually be Mansur. You laugh, but I'm telling you now, they will never, ever, ever, ever beat Mansur in Saudi Arabia. Never. Because if they did, all hell would break loose if that happened. All hell would break loose, so that's not happening. But it was historic for a variety of reasons, of course. It was the first time 2 Muslims had faced off against each other in a pay-per-view match. So huge match from a historical point of view, which you'd love to see. Mustafa Ali as well. Again, I want to shout out him here because not only was he a consummate professional in this match, and the match itself was fine, but also, which I think was really amazing, is that he knows the situation he's in with this kind of stuff, and he knows that the backdrop of this card and what this pay-per-view really means and all that kind of stuff. And he said, look, I wish that this was in another situation. I wish that the first ever match between 2, Muslims on a pay-per-view wasn't necessarily taking place at this event, but it is. And also what I'm going to do is the paycheck I get for Crown Jewel, it's all going to charity. because he doesn't want to be necessarily part of it, but he wants to help out. So good for him. I think good for him. Maybe that's the way of really doing it, of being like, look, I'm gonna do what I'm told to do. I'm a good employee, but the money that I get, which is a lot because they make a ton of money at these events, is going straight to charity. So I think that's fair play to him. But Mansur got the victory. The closing moments of the match saw Mansur hit that neck breaker from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring to win the match. As Mansur's getting his arm raised after the match, Mustafa Ali attacks him. And then this was so bizarre. Right? So some music started playing, and a guy comes out. And a guy's come out, he's got like a red belt on, he's got like a gi on, and he's got his face kind of covered by sort of cloth. And the arena just goes silent. The arena just goes silent. Who is this guy? And Michael Cole and Corey Graves and Byron Saxton on commentary, they're like, I don't know who this guy is. In the end, it turns out to be Tarek Hamidi, who is, as they explained, is an Olympic silver medalist. He won a silver medal at the Tokyo Games this past summer in karate. He's from Saudi Arabia. So they have a face-off, and then Hamidi just kicks Mustafa Ali straight in the head with a pretty impressive kick, to be fair. But he does karate. I mean, if he did a bad kick, you'd be like, dude, you're a silver medalist. So he kicks Mustafa Ali in the head, and then Hamidi and Mansur celebrate with the crowd, and everyone's happy. Mansur's legendary undefeated streak continues at these Saudi shows. I tell you what, it's going to rival the Undertaker streak one day. In 20 years' time, they'll still be wheeling Mansur out for these Saudi shows. And eventually, when he gets beat by Brock Lesnar, who's 75 years old at that time, it'll be amazing. It'll be amazing to see. The next match was for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Saw RK Bro defeat AJ Styles and Omos. Didn't last very long, this one. 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Again, not surprising at all. As soon as this match was announced, everyone went, well, they're not going to lose, are they? They're not going to lose their titles. They just won them at SummerSlam. It's the rematch, so obviously they're not going to lose their tag team championships. The match itself was fine. You know, in the closing moments, saw. And the thing is, this will never not be impressive. So you had the generic stuff of Randy Orton and AJ Styles starting the match, and eventually Omos comes in and he dominates Orton and he dominates Riddle, and eventually Styles comes back in and then actually turns it into a proper match again, all that kind of stuff. The closing moments of the match saw Randy Orton counter the phenomenal forearm midair, turns it into an RKO, gets the win. It's never not impressive. Whenever Randy Orton in midair counters a springboard into the RKO, we have seen it a million times. Especially with AJ Styles with a phenomenal forearm. We've seen them do that specific spot a million times. We've seen Randy Orton do that spot a million times. It's never not impressive. It still is great, and it still always gets a pop from the crowd. That's all that matters. Ultimately, though, the most exciting thing about the Raw Tag Team Championship match had nothing to do with the actual match, the actual action between the Bálors themselves. It had nothing to do with that. The most exciting thing in this match, and I think the image, if you will, that will be replayed over and over and over again, was Riddle coming out on a camel. It was tremendous. It actually was tremendous. And I'm not the biggest Riddle fan, I must say. Earlier this year, prior to the RK Bro stuff, Riddle was meant to be this baby face, but he was an annoying baby face and all this kind of stuff, and he was just, I was not on that train. He's become more tolerable, I think, with Randy Orton sort of balancing him out, because Randy Orton represents us. Randy Orton represents how we, sort of watch Riddle of like, oh, come on. No one's really like that. But basically, as RK Bro was making their entrance, out they come, Randy Orton's music's playing, Riddle comes out with his scooter, and then he just disappears. He just walks off. And everyone goes, where's Riddle gone? Why does he disappear? And Randy Orton's throwing a tantrum. He's stamping his feet. He's going, where did Riddle go? I can't believe he ditched me. He's meant to be my tag team partner. Then suddenly, wouldn't you know it, out comes Riddle on a camel. He's on a camel. And this was weird. And I should preface this, actually, because even in the first match, in the first couple of matches, when people were making their entrances, there were camels at the side of the stage. And I mentioned on the watch long, I went, why on earth why are there camels on the side of the stage? And I felt bad because obviously it's a stadium show. So WWE's got this huge budget for pyro. So there's so much pyro coming off every single person they come out, they got pyro. And these poor camels are standing there at the side of the stage, and they got to be freaked out, right? If you've ever been to a WWE event and they've let off pyro, it's loud. It's really loud. Or if you've ever been to like a fireworks display and they let off like 4th of July or whatever, it's loud. So those poor camels are standing right next to these pyro, and I thought, oh my goodness, poor you. These poor camels, in fairness to them, they didn't look startled at all. But I was looking at it at the time going, man, they should, I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so I thought, why are the camels there? I guess they're just there for dressing. They're just there because I guess it's a Saudi show, so you've got to have some camels. It was ridiculous. But Riddle comes out, and as he's coming out, Randy Orton is... It was great. It's giving him looks like, what is this guy's coming out on a camel? Why is he on a camel? And the best thing it was, and I have a screen grab of it, and I'm so happy with it, is that as they're coming out, Riddle's singing along to I Hear Voices by Red Theory, and Randy Orton's like, what? And he's doing the pose on the camel. Look, I'm not a massive fan of WWE comedy. I'm still not totally on board the whole Riddle gimmick and all this kind of stuff, especially this version. I like the NXT version, all that kind of stuff. But the camel stuff was pretty badass. It was funny. It was better than the match. But they retained the Raw Tag Team Championships. But the camel stuff was great. Smash a like if you enjoyed the camel stuff. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. We've got over nearly 160 people watching. So be sure to smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Next match, I do want to talk about this one. Queen's Crown Tournament Final. So the winner of the inaugural Queen's Crown Tournament is none other than Zelina Vega. Yes, Zelina Vega wins the Queen's Crown Tournament. Surprising, absolutely, because prior to this tournament, Zelina Vega had won nothing. Absolutely nothing. She'd won literally nothing at all, which was staggering. So suddenly... she just wins this tournament, and the match itself lasted less than 6 minutes. I'm going to be brutally honest. It was awful. I thought it was really bad. I thought it was a really bad match, and I think it sums up. I think it really sums up the state of the women's division in WWE right now, in the sense that you've got your title matches. You've got your matches that involve either sort of Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Bayley if she's back, Rhea Ripley. You've got those sort of top tier ones. Anything underneath that, WWE doesn't care about. They couldn't give a damn about it. So people like Toni Storm, people like Zelina Vega, people like Doudrop, people like whoever it may be, Carmella, all of those guys, Liv Morgan, anyone like that, they could care less. And they treat them like the divas back in the day. That's how they treat them. 2, 3, 4, 5 minute matches. That's it. No storylines, no story, could care less. And that's what this tournament was. We've been begging for years. We've been talking about, I tell you what, it'll be great when we get a Queen of the Ring tournament. It'll be great when we get a Queen of the Ring tournament. We've got a King of the Ring tournament. Why can't we have a Queen of the Ring tournament? And we got it, and it felt like we ordered it off Wish.com. It was awful. Absolutely awful. Not just the match tonight. The match itself tonight was not good. The tournament in general meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. The matches they had on SmackDown or Raw lasted like 5 minutes. There was no story in it. The commentators could care less. And it just goes to show WWE did it because they just could not care. They just could care less. They absolutely could care less about this tournament. Zelina Vega wins. Great. I think out of the two names in there, that probably makes sense. She's worn a crown before, I guess. I tell you what was really bugging the hell out of me as well is every time they did this after the Queen's Crown Tournament Final, they did this after the King of the Ring Tournament Final, where they play some regal music and they had Greg Hamilton, like an idiot, just shout, "All hail Queen Zelina Vega," or whatever it may be. Oh, when he was doing that, because that concerns me, because what you get, if that's where they're going with it, what you get King Corbin. You get that kind of situation again. And that is my biggest issue with the King of the Ring gimmick, or now the Queen's Crown gimmick as well, is that if you win the tournament, you have to act like a king or a queen for 2 years. It's like a prison sentence because that gimmick doesn't get over anymore. It doesn't. There's so much evidence that that gimmick doesn't get over anymore. King Corbin, what did that do for him? Did nothing for him. Made him like anti-television. Nobody wanted to watch him. Before that, who was it? King Barrett. What did that do for him? Absolutely nothing. Before that, what did it do? King Sheamus. Absolutely nothing. Every single time they do this thing where they win the King of the Ring or they win the Queen's Crown and they say, right, you have to be Queen Vega or you have to be King Woods for whoever, all for like 2 years, it's anti-television. Why can't you say, I won the King of the Ring tournament or I won the Queen's Crown tournament, I'm the best in the ring? That's it. That's all you should be. That's all you should say. But it's just, the match wasn't good. The tournament, just to be honest, wasn't good. And it's just disappointing. We wanted to see this for years. And very, very disappointing, I thought. And the match, Zelina Vega gets the win after hitting Code Red. It wasn't good. It just wasn't good. But maybe Zelina Vega gets a push on SmackDown, but I don't even know if it does. Because, again, this isn't a case. This is my concern about it. This isn't a case of WWE being really invested in this tournament. So whoever wins it, it means something. Right? That doesn't mean that. It's just WWE, they don't care. They don't care about this tournament. So by proxy, they don't care who won it. And Zelina Vega happened to win it. Next one was Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. And you know what? I am going to give Goldberg some actual credit here. Goldberg matches aren't good. The guy is nearly 54, 55 years old. Goldberg matches aren't good. We know this, right? I think this is the longest Goldberg match he has done since he returned to WWE, I think. The only one that might have been longer was the Undertaker one, which was a shambles. Goldberg's record in Saudi Arabia for matches is awful. Terrible. Whether it's the Undertaker, whether it's the Fiend, it's widely associated with just badness, right? And this match wasn't great. Make no mistake, it wasn't great. But it's not for the WWE Championship, which it shouldn't be, because Goldberg shouldn't be involved in the WWE Championship. And the fact that it was a no-holds-barred match and it was Falls Count Anywhere allowed WWE to sort of not actually have a... This is the thing, and this is why the SummerSlam one was so bad. If you try and actually make Goldberg have a match, you are dead if that happens. You are absolutely dead if that happens. What you can do with a Falls Count Anywhere match, use weapons, spear through the barricade, spear off the stage, you know what I mean? You steal steps, steal chairs. That's how you get around it, right? You be clever, you be smart. You don't book Goldberg in a match where he's got to actually wrestle or anything like that because he's stupid, because he's bad at it. He wasn't good at it when he was in his prime, let alone when he's in his 50s. But the match went long. Lashley actually dominated Goldberg for a while. They actually started the match, interestingly, whereby Lashley gets into the corner. He pulls a chain, the second chain of the night, pulls a chain out of himself. And basically, Goldberg managed to fight back. He hits the spear, hits the jackhammer, and everyone thinks that's over. But he says no. Instead of going for the cover, he takes off his fighting gloves, because, again, he's avenging his family, right? He's avenging his son. He's avenging Sunberg. Takes off his gloves, spears Lashley into the timekeeper's area, attempts to attack Lashley using the steel steps. So Lashley says, you know what, I've had enough of this, tries to run up the entrance ramp. Then they had some good visuals, actually, of Lashley and Goldberg on opposite ends of the entrance ramp. Out comes the Hurt Business. Lashley destroys them, kicks Shelton Benjamin in the face, back body drop to Cedric Alexander. And then, essentially, Lashley, they had these kendo sticks, and Goldberg gets the upper hand, beats the hell out of Lashley with a kendo stick. And then Goldberg, and this is where I'll give him credit, I will give him credit, Lashley gets speared off of the stage by Goldberg to tables and crash pads below, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Look, it's still a stunt. He still went, like 10 feet? Maybe a bit more than that, like 10 feet off the stage. 55 years old, doing a spear off the stage. I give him credit for that one. And in terms of Goldberg matches that he's had since he came back in WWE, I mean in general, since he came back in 2016 with the Lesnar stuff, it wasn't bad. Was it the best one that he's had? Arguably, maybe the best match he had since he came back was actually the Brock one at WrestleMania 33, maybe. But in terms of an actual match, I didn't hate it. I'll be honest, I didn't hate it. I know a lot of people weren't happy that Lashley lost, but he was always going to lose this match. He was always going to lose this one. I am concerned about Bobby because you think about it, how much losing he's been doing recently. So he loses the WWE Championship to Big E. Then he loses in the triple threat match against Big E and Roman Reigns. And you'll say, well, they're the two world champions. That doesn't hurt him. Lost against Big E once again in a steel cage. Now he loses to Brock. The issue when you lose to Brock as opposed to Roman Reigns or Big E is that Goldberg against Goldberg rather, is that Goldberg isn't going to be at Monday Night Raw next week. Goldberg isn't going to be on television until probably at least the Royal Rumble, probably WrestleMania next year. Goldberg isn't going to show up for the next however many months, 5-6 months. Lashley's going to be on television. Lashley's going to be on TV on Monday. So they've got to build the heat back on Lashley because all he's been doing recently is losing. All he's been doing is losing matches now. But he was always going to lose this match. He was always going to lose this match because he beat Bill for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, and not just beat him, the referee stopped the match, and he beat up the guy's son. It's, from a storyline point of view, you tend to paint yourself into a corner, don't you? If you beat up the guy's son, and then the father says, I'm going to get revenge because you beat up my son, and then the father loses, the father is just completely demasculated. He's just not a good father, and he can't protect his son, and he's a crippled old man. Which is probably true if you actually had him in a real fight against Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley would kill Bill Goldberg. But they painted themselves into a corner. Goldberg gets the win. I didn't hate the match, I must say. I appreciated the spear off the stage. I'll credit Goldberg for putting that on the line. It's one of the better matches he's had. It's a low bar. I get it. It's a very, very low bar. But it is what it is. I just think now the focus has to be on how do we build Bobby Lashley back up. So the next match was the King of the Ring finals. If you are new to the channel, by the way, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Actually, let's do a quick like check. See how many likes we're on for this one. We're only on 45 likes. So be sure to smash a like, see if we can get it up to 60 or 70 likes. And be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We'll do a quick subscriber check as well. We're currently on 5,366. So let's see if we can get to, a 5,400 rather. See if we can get to 34 more subscribers. Only need 34 more subscribers. So be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's get back to the matches. The next match was the King of the Ring finals, and Xavier Woods is the King of the Ring, and a match that actually went under 10 minutes. I'll be honest with you with this one. I thought the match itself was fine. I thought it was very flat, though. I did think it was very flat. I don't know if it's... At this point in the show, it did feel like the crowd was starting to get tired, and I think this happened in the WWE Championship match as well. The crowd kind of was in a bit of a lull. I don't know if it's because after the Goldberg match and they'd seen the stunt off the stage or whatever it may be, but the crowd did feel a bit flat. And I even though, look, Xavier Woods was the sentimental favorite, and I think, again, talking about painting yourselves into a corner, I think WWE had kind of painted themselves into a corner in essence of, you know, the story was Xavier Woods has always wanted to win this. He never wanted to be WWE champion or world heavyweight champion growing up. All he wanted to do was win the King of the Ring, right? So once he was in the tournament, he kind of had to win. Even though in a final where it was Xavier Woods versus Finn Bálor, you kind of look at, well, he's Prince Devitt. And on Monday Night Raw, which Bálor is going to be, him being the King of the Ring could have led him to maybe turning heel, or maybe bringing that sort of Prince Devitt character to Monday Night Raw and challenging for the WWE Championship and then having a Big E versus King Bálor feud. That's interesting. That's money. But they couldn't do that because the sentimental favorite was always Xavier Woods. And if they hadn't had Xavier Woods win, they'd have probably put themselves in an unfavorable position with the fans. Not that WWE cares about that, to be honest with you, but that would have been the problem, certainly there. So Xavier Woods kind of had to win, but the match was flat. Xavier Woods gets the victory after hitting his tight walk diving elbow. So he gets the win, and afterwards they do the whole deal where, again, like with the Zelina Vega thing, where Greg Hamilton gets on the mic and goes, "Oh, hail King Xavier Woods," and they play some stupid music. I don't know what this means for Xavier Woods, and that's kind of my concern with it, I will say, going forward, is what does it mean? What does it mean for Xavier Woods going forward now? Now he's King of the Ring. He's on SmackDown. Is he going to be a singles on SmackDown? I know that Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston got drafted to SmackDown, but is he going to be a single star? Is he just going to be involved in singles matches? Or is he still going to compete in a tag team? Because to be honest with you, it's a waste now. You've just had a guy win a singles tournament, a historic singles tournament. It doesn't make any sense for him to be teaming with Kofi Kingston anymore. So, to be honest with you, the way I see it, I look at Roman Reigns' next opponents, and we'll talk about Reigns, obviously, but I look at Roman Reigns' next opponents. I look at Reigns facing Big E, obviously at Survivor Series, Universal Champion versus WWE Champion. I then go into December, and I say, who faces Reigns in December? Is it Drew McIntyre, which a lot of people think it will be, or is it Xavier Woods? Because realistically, Drew McIntyre just lost a WWE Championship match tonight. What makes him deserving of being the Universal Championship contender? It doesn't. From a logic point of view, Xavier Woods just won a major tournament, so surely wouldn't he be higher up the food chain for a Universal Championship? And in terms of a December feud, when not that no one really pays attention to WWE in December, because they do, obviously, but it's a low point of the year as you head into the Royal Rumble and things start to pick up as you get closer to WrestleMania. Why not give Xavier Woods that time then? I know they're not going to have the TLC pay-per-view in December, but they're going to have that Day 1 show on New Year's Day in January. Why not do Reigns versus Xavier Woods? It's something different. My concern might be of, from a match point of view, Xavier Woods is a good wrestler. I'm not saying Xavier Woods is a bad wrestler, but this match didn't really do anything, too much for me. But Xavier Woods gets the win, and I think it's an interesting one to see how that one plays out, certainly, because, again, you can't win in my opinion, you can't win the King of the Ring tournament and then just go, okay, we're going to challenge for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship with Kofi Kingston again. We just won a singles tournament. You can't just go back into nothingness, in my opinion. So I'm interested to see how that one plays out. I am kind of, like I said, not concerned, but I am a bit weary for Finn Bálor after this, because I look at it and say, Bálor could have done with that. He really could have done with that on Raw. I know he just challenged for the Universal Championship, but again, and I said this at the time, I said this to so many people at the time when they were like, this is good for Finn Bálor. He's having a main event level championship match with Roman Reigns, and it shows that he is going to be doing something after coming back from NXT. Well, look at him now. Yeah, he was in the King of the Ring finals, but he lost as well there. And how did he lose that match against Roman Reigns? The rope broke. And now he's on Raw, and I look at him on Raw, I'm thinking, I have no idea what he's going to do. No idea what he's going to do. So that's certainly a curious one. Next match was for the WWE Championship. Big E retains the WWE Championship. Again, expected. I think most people expected this just from a pure logic point of view, because it's just a bit of numeracy, really. You go, okay, Big E's on Raw. He's the WWE Champion. Drew McIntyre's been drafted to SmackDown. Roman Reigns is not going to lose the Universal Championship. So if he's not going to lose the Universal title, we're not going to be in a situation where Drew McIntyre wins the WWE Championship just after Big E's won it, by the way, and take it to SmackDown. It's almost as if the draft kind of played a bit of a spoiler for some of these matches, because, again, you just had to just do a bit of, quick maths, and you figured out how it was going to go. But the match itself was decent. The closing moments, I tell you what was good, actually. So there was the spot where Big E hit a big ending, McIntyre kicked out, and they had the spot where it looked like Big E was going to do his spear. He does his spear through the ropes onto his opponent, and Big E, every time he does it, just nearly lands on his head, kills himself. I was like, oh my God. So he was going to do it, and in fairness, I'm very critical of the WWE camera work because of the amount of cuts they have, but this one they got so right, because they cut away, and as Big E's running, Drew McIntyre comes into frame and just nails him with a Claymore, and Big E kicked out. That was a really good spot. So closing moment, see McIntyre go for a second Claymore. Big E reverse, hit a second big ending. He retains the title. Interesting to point out, I think, from it, that one, I think the crowd was more in favor for Drew McIntyre. There were dueling chants of Big E and Drew McIntyre, but there were far more, from what I could hear. Now, your feed, you might have heard something different, but I certainly heard more McIntyre, more Drew chants, which I think is interesting, but give Big E time. After the match, Big E's holding up the championship. Drew McIntyre gives him the thumbs up as he heads to SmackDown to, I guess, challenge for the Universal Championship. I feel sorry for Drew McIntyre. I really, really do, and that's not just me as a fellow Brit. Of course, McIntyre's Scottish, so I've got a soft spot for him, but I feel sorry for him. I do, because his run has been unfortunate. Look, he's been WWE champion twice. It's not too unfortunate, but my point is that I mean, think of almost the luck. Nobody else in history would have been WWE champion twice and never held the title in front of a live audience. It's crazy when you think about it, isn't it? He won the championship in April 2020 or March 2020 at WrestleMania 36 in an empty performance center. Loses the championship that following October to Randy Orton at Hell in a Cell. Wins it back. So he has the match this time last year, or just in a few weeks this time last year, against Roman Reigns. Drops the championship at Elimination Chamber to The Miz with the idea he's probably going to win it back at WrestleMania in front of a live crowd. Bobby Lashley gets so over that they don't do that. And now we're at a situation whereby McIntyre doesn't feel as red hot as he was prior to the pandemic. And he doesn't necessarily feel like a person that... Is McIntyre on SmackDown? Is he that guy to beat Roman Reigns? No, he's not. He's not going to be that guy because he's not that red hot. Drew McIntyre, just prior to the pandemic, yeah, he would have been that guy, I think, to beat Roman Reigns if he was that, that level of popularity. But he's not at this point. He's not. And I don't know what's next for Drew. Again, the rumors are that he's going to challenge for the Universal Championship. They'll do that match again because they had it at Survivor Series last year, and it was very good. It was very good. So they'll have that match again, I have no doubt about it. But again, McIntyre's not going to win that one. And he has been picking up a lot of losses recently, whether it's to Damian Priest, whether it's to Bobby Lashley, whether it's to Big E here. He has been picking up these losses or losing to Sheamus. And I just look at him and go, man, this time last year, McIntyre was the face of Monday Night Raw, bona fide main event, a WWE champion. He carried Raw on his back. He was the top babyface in WWE because Reigns was a heel once again at this point. So McIntyre was the top babyface at this point. But now, it does feel like I said, that he has lost something. And I don't know what that is. Now, again, this was the right outcome. It was a predictable outcome. The match itself was fine. But I do look at McIntyre now and I just think, how is he going to get that momentum back? I don't know if that's turning heel. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. I do think the booking of him has been shoddy. The whole idea of him coming out with a sword, I think, is ludicrous. He'll never use it as a weapon, though. It's just, maybe he is turning heel. I don't know. I think there just needs to be something found with Drew again. And that momentum he had is just kind of lost. As far as Big E, what's next for him on Raw? Like I said, he's going to be facing Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, so that's going to be the deal. That's how they're going to get to... I think but the Reigns will be making appearances on Raw because of to hype it up. I was thinking of that Long Island show, but that's actually after Survivor Series. So I don't know how they're going to get Reigns on Raw. Whatever. But who's he going to be facing next? Like I said, he'll be facing Roman at Survivor Series, December... anyone really on Raw at that point, whether it is Finn Bálor, whether it's Edge, whether it's Rollins. There are names for Big E to face. Certainly first time matches, exciting matches. So he can have great matches. It's about connecting with the fans now at this point. But I'm excited about Big E. I thought the match itself was okay. But like I said, predictable outcome, not necessarily a bad thing. Next up, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match, and again, no titles changed hands here because Becky Lynch retained the SmackDown Women's Championship. She defeated Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks in a match that nearly went 20 minutes. 20 minutes! This match actually got a ton of time. And again, this is my point. This is what I mentioned earlier when it comes to the Queen's Crown tournament, is that WWE, this is how they book their matches in their women's division at this point, is you have that sort of elite tier, not pun intended, but you have that elite tier where you have Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, those kind of people that are up that level. And if you're under that level, you're divas. Basically, that's how they consider you, because you've got a SmackDown Women's Championship match here that goes 20 minutes, and then you've got the Queen's Crown tournament match that goes 5 minutes. The difference there is astounding, absolutely astounding. But Becky Lynch retains. She cheats to win. So, closing moments of the match saw Becky Lynch lock in a double disarmer, only for Belair to power her way free. Bianca hit the KOD on Becky Lynch, and Sasha threw Bianca out the ring, but was caught by Becky with an inside cradle, who had her hands on the rope for leverage to retain the title. So the match itself, I think, was okay. I didn't think it was the best triple threat match that we've seen from any of these guys. Considering the people in it, was I a bit disappointed? A bit. I do think a bit. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest with you, because... there were spots that were clunky. I thought there was a spot where the ref just stopped counting, which bugged the hell out of me. Look, the thing that I think really bugged me the most about this one is after the match, you have Michael Cole on commentary going, wow, guys, the SmackDown Women's Champions on Raw and the Raw Women's Champions on SmackDown. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like it's the first time that's ever happened. Oh, we've never seen anything like that before, have we? Oh, we've never seen anything where someone's held a SmackDown Championship on Raw and a Raw Championship on SmackDown. We've never seen that before. Oh, wait, yes, we have. We saw it last year. We saw it last year. How short a memories do they think we have? We saw it last year with the Tag Team Championships. The New Day won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships on the draft episode of SmackDown. They got drafted to Raw. On the following episode of the draft on Raw, the Street Profits, the Raw Tag Team Champions, got drafted to SmackDown. So what did they do? They just swapped them over. Just went, you know what? We'll just change them. They're basically the same thing. They're basically the same bouts. They're just different colours. We'll just swap them over. Oh, we'll just do that. So don't have Michael Cole on commentary start giving it to me. You're like, oh, we've never seen anything like this. What are they going to do? Oh, we're in such a state of situation. Oh, we don't know what's going on here. Oh, we've never seen anything like this before. Who knows? What are we going to do? The SmackDown Women's Champions on Raw and the Raw Women's Champions on SmackDown. Oh, I've never seen anything like it. Do me a favour. Honestly, do me a favour. Now, I don't know if they're going to swap them over like they did with the Tag Team Championships last year. I tend to think not. These are two heels into Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. These are two heels that, are they going to be willing to give up their titles? Is this something they could play into Survivor Series with? Maybe they do that. Maybe it turns into a situation whereby, look, the SmackDown Women's Champions on Raw, the Raw Women's Champions on SmackDown. Let's turn this into a brand rivalry. Let's turn this into a storyline for Survivor Series or something like that. And maybe we make Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair at Survivor Series, which, to be honest, people have been wanting to see for a while, because when Charlotte Flair was on Monday Night Raw, right, prior to Becky Lynch coming back, she'd be talking in the ring. People would be chanting Becky, and she started doing this slander where she would say, oh, Becky Lynch is at home breastfeeding and all this kind of stuff, right? That's what she was doing. So maybe they finally have that match at Survivor Series, and they just go, you know what, we'll make it for both titles. Screw it. make it for both bouts. And you know what? They might as well. With the way they treat the women's division, why not just unify it? I know they did hold both bouts before, and it was Becky 2 bouts and all that kind of stuff. Why don't they just unify the titles and just say, you know what, the women's division can be, the women's champion can appear on both shows? Because they would probably want that. You know for a fact that Fox still wants Becky Lynch on SmackDown. Or you were saying that we want Charlotte Flair on Raw. And we all want more Charlotte Flair, don't we? Of course, we want more Charlotte Flair. So why not just do that? So I think maybe we might be sort of leaning into some kind of like Survivor Series storyline or something like that. I think that's where we're going. But I wasn't surprised again. We knew coming into this show that no titles were changing hands. So that was the case there. And finally, you had the main event, Universal Championship on the line, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Before we get into that one, be sure to smash a like on the video. Let's check how many likes we're on right now. We're on 82 likes, so we're only 18 likes away from 100 likes. So be sure to smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. We're currently on, let's do a quick subscriber check while my phone loads. 5,380, so only 20 subscribers away from 5,400. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Only 20 subscribers away from 5,400. My target at the beginning of the night was 5,300. So we get to 5,400. Oh my god, my head might explode. Not literally on stream, that would be quite dramatic, and I don't know if I actually have those superpowers in me. But the final match, the main event, was for the Universal Championship, and the big question going into this one, wasn't it? Where does Paul Heyman's allegiances lie? Where does Paul Heyman's allegiances lie? Is it with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline? Is he going to be the special counsel to the Tribal Chief? Or is he the advocate for the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar? Where does those loyalties lie? The question was not answered. We don't know. We don't know. We had heard this. We had heard this coming into Crown Jewel. We had heard, basically, this was going to be the first match of many. This was going to be the first match of many between Reigns and Brock. This was going to be a beginning of a rivalry, possibly seeing rematches at WrestleMania next year or the Royal Rumble, certainly next year, or maybe the Royal Rumble and then the next Saudi show, which will probably be in February. And that's pretty much what we got. Brock Lesnar, his first match in nearly 20 months. Brock looks, apart from having the long hair and the beard, looks no different physically, looks to be in unbelievable shape. And it was an interesting one because coming into the match, and I said this several times on a couple of the videos that we did, that I looked at it as, what kind of match are we going to do? We know the Brock Lesnar match. We know the Suplex City. We know the German suplexes, vertical suplexes, the Brock Lesnar dominating match. The pattern for the Brock Lesnar match is this: suplex, 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 dominate, dominate, dominate. The opponent fights back, hits a couple of near falls, hits their finish, hits some signature moves, Brock kicks out, then just as it looks like the opponent is about to win, gets him on the shoulders, F5, get out of there. That's the Brock Lesnar match. The problem is coming into it, that's the Roman Reigns match now. That's the way Roman Reigns matches have been playing out for the last however many months, year or so, is that Reigns dominates, they fight back, Reigns hits a spear, he wins. So that's kind of the situation there. So I was interested to see how that one played out. And basically, they just sort of, Brock didn't dominate, but Reigns didn't dominate. That's basically what they did. It was a bit of give and take. Really impressive moment where Reigns did a dive to the outside of the ring. It must be said the match did not last long. The match just went just over 12 minutes, but it's a Brock match. They don't go necessarily super, super long. They don't. Now, Lesnar hit multiple German suplexes on Reigns and hit an F5 on Reigns for a near fall. He attempted a second F5, but Reigns countered into a guillotine choke. Lesnar managed to fight out of it with a spine buster. Now, Lesnar hit a second F5 on Reigns. This was unbelievable. This shows the strength of Brock Lesnar. So he gets Roman Reigns upon his shoulders. He F5s him and just throws him. I think they did the same spot with Daniel Bryan, at Survivor Series in 2018. Gets him up on the shoulders and just F5s him, throws him into Charles Robinson. Just completely takes him out. Now, Brock's furious about this because he goes to cover Reigns, does the whole 1, 2, 3, I think gets to like 6 or 7, realizes, man, I could have won the championship here. So he's getting up, he's frustrated. He does what he did to Charles Robinson, 9 years ago at Extreme Rules, when he picks Charles Robinson up by the bout, throws him around like he's a stuffed animal. But as he turns around, bang, Reigns hits a second spear on Lesnar. And this is where Paul Heyman comes into it. So you've got Reigns down in the ring, you've got Lesnar down in the ring. Paul Heyman is on the outside of the ring, he's in between them both. Just the right amount of distance between them both. He's got the Universal Championship in his hands. And he throws it in the middle of the ring, in the middle of them. He throws it in the middle of those two guys and says, you know what to do with it. And you couldn't tell, did he mean to throw it to Brock? Did he mean to throw it to Roman? Or is his loyalty, like where he threw the championship, just right in the middle? So he throws it in the middle of the ring. Reigns and Lesnar have a tug of war over it. The Usos come out because the referee's down, and it's a Roman Reigns match, of course. So if they ever want to do a controversial, or they don't want to have a clean victory for Reigns, they do a ref bump and the Usos come out. How many times have we seen that? Whether it's Edge, whether it's Daniel Bryan, whether it's whoever it may be, that's what they do. The Usos come out, hit a super kick, double super kick on Lesnar. Reigns hits Lesnar with the Universal Championship. Out comes a second referee. 1, 2, 3. I was surprised by that finish. I must say I was surprised by that finish because we've almost been conditioned at this point as fans that when the second referee runs to the ring, they kick out. They kick out all the time, don't they? It's dramatic. They run out, 1, 2, kick out. Reigns hits another spear, gets the win. So I was surprised, even though it's a Universal Championship shot to the head, even though it's a double super kick, I was surprised to see Brock go down to that, considering this is the Brock Lesnar that's kicked out of like 5 spears before, or you know what I mean? He kicks out of everything. So he gets done with a double super kick and a Universal title shot to the head. I know he had a couple of spears previously, but you know what I mean? I was surprised by that. Reigns retains, not surprising. Again, I looked at this one and I looked at this whole pay-per-view and said I didn't really see anyone switching the belts. Roman Reigns, in my opinion, I've said this time and time again, and if you've seen any of the videos here on the channel, you'll know this. I've said time and time again, I don't see Roman Reigns dropping the Universal Championship until WrestleMania next year at a minimum. And I know people will say that's such a long period of time, but who's going to take the title off him? Who's going to be the one to take? There is nobody credible on that roster. It's almost a case of how successful that Roman Reigns has been and what a great character he is and what a top draw he is. The issue is there is nobody that's anywhere near his level in terms of that can be the name that Reigns drops the title to. Now, you could argue whoever Reigns does drop the title to, he makes them, but I don't even think WWE wants to take that risk right now. Not in terms of the risk of making a superstar, but the risk of having Roman lose. They're looking at that going, look, we have built something up here that maybe we didn't necessarily intend to, or something got hotter than we thought it was going to get. We thought getting Reigns over as a heel would eventually get him over as a babyface. Maybe it will, but they're looking at the guy that is just money right now, and they have no interest in throwing away that money that's Roman Reigns. They know what they've got, and that's why they've had Cena come back, put him over. That's why they've had Edge come back, put him over. That's why they had Brock come back, put him over, because they know he's money, and they know they're very basically, as a full-time guy, they've got one money guy right now. That's Roman Reigns. That's all they've got. Now, we'd heard, as I mentioned, the rumor coming into the show was that Brock versus Roman, this wasn't going to be the only time they faced off, because even prior to Brock coming back, we had heard the rumor that basically, because everyone wants to see Brock versus Bobby. Now, Brock lost to Bobby Lashley lost to Goldberg earlier on in the night, so I don't think Brock versus Bobby's happening anytime soon. Brock is a free agent though, so it's not off the cards, it must be said, but Lashley needs to be built back up once again if he's on the level of Brock Lesnar. But when it comes to Brock versus to Reigns, even prior to Brock returning, we had heard that WWE wanted really badly to do Brock versus Roman, and the plan was to do it at WrestleMania next year. Reportedly, when AEW signed CM Punk and when they signed Bryan Danielson, they went, right, we need to pull the trigger on bringing Brock back. They brought the Rock back. They brought Brock back. And they thought, right, we still probably want to do Brock versus Reigns at WrestleMania next year, but why don't we tell a bigger story? Why don't we do more matches? And why don't we lay the seeds for it at Crown Jewel? So I think that's where we're going. I think we could see Roman Reigns versus Brock next year at WrestleMania. And maybe that's where Roman drops his championship. But again, I have no interest at this point. We've done it so many times. I have no interest in seeing Brock Lesnar be the Universal Champion again. I just don't. The reason why I have no interest is because I have no interest in seeing the Universal Champion not be on television for 3 or 4 months at a time. I have no interest in seeing that. At least with Roman Reigns, he's on TV every week or most weeks. Brock isn't going to be that. And especially babyface Brock. What a babyface champion. He wins the title and doesn't come back. That's a problem. That is a problem. So whilst they might build to a match at WrestleMania or a rematch at WrestleMania, I still don't see Brock winning the title. And again, I look at that SmackDown roster now. Certainly, I look at that SmackDown roster and I say, who on earth is going to be the guy to beat Roman Reigns for the title? Nobody. I honestly, unless somebody catches fire, which it doesn't look like they will right now, I just don't see who that's going to be. I really don't. Roman Reigns is the money guy right now. He called himself the Needle, whatever that may be, but he is the best that WWE's got right now. So I wasn't surprised by the outcome whatsoever. I think it does set up future matches. Again, like I said before, we don't know. We don't know where Paul Heyman's loyalty lies at this point, and I think that's a point to that, and I think they'll continue to play out. I think what they'll do now is, because obviously Brock's going to go away for the next couple of weeks, they might ask Paul a question where it's like, who did you throw the belt to, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, I threw it to Roman Reigns. Of course I did. Of course I threw it to Roman Reigns, all this kind of stuff. And then they focus on Big E, and then they focus on Drew McIntyre, and the storyline isn't Heyman and Reigns anymore, and they look together, and the bloodline looks together. And then maybe in January, eventually Brock does come back, and then the question about, you were meant to throw the belt to me. That was the plan. You were meant to throw the belt to me, or I've got video footage of us planning this, and you were meant to throw the belt to me, all this kind of stuff, and you didn't. That's where they can revisit this. So I think, if anything, the whole Reigns versus, or the Reigns and Heyman, where does the loyalty lie storyline, I think has essentially been parked. I feel like it's been parked for now, to be honest with you. But I do think they'll revisit it. I'm glad. I'm really glad, because I didn't want to see Reigns and Heyman get split up. Especially, I don't want to see Reigns and Heyman get split up for Heyman not being on television for the next however many months, because Brock isn't going to be back until, next year probably at this point, right? So I had no interest really in seeing that. I do think, in fairness, I said that Brock isn't going to be back on television until next year. Survivor Series is in Brooklyn next month. It is in the Barclays Center, so it's not out of the realm, certainly a possibility that might happen, I guess. I'm not going to rule that one out completely, it must be said, but I just don't know. But considering it's in New York and it's in Brooklyn, maybe Brock will come back. Maybe that will happen. But let me know what you thought. If you're watching, if you didn't manage to catch this live, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's do a quick check. We're only 9 subscribers away. We're 9 subscribers away from 5,400 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Like I said, the target actually for this evening was 5,300. So the fact that we're nearly at 5,400 is crazy, absolutely crazy. Really appreciate everyone's support so far. So yes, we're only 9 subscribers away. You could be the 5,400th subscriber. Let's have a check to see how many likes we're on as well. We're over 100 likes, which is amazing too, and 104 likes. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner too. As we can hopefully get to 5,400 subscribers. Like I said, only 9 subscribers away. We could do it like that, guys. We could potentially do it like that. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. It's been, I'll tell you what, it's been a long stream. Even though it's at a more favorable time for me, because obviously for these shows, the Saudi shows, they start at like 5 p.m. They're still like 5 hours long. They're still 5 hours long. Let's see what you guys say in the chat quickly as we wait to get to 5,400. Chad Knoll says, I'm almost as tired of heel Roman as I was a face Roman. Interesting. Rafa Pereira says, how can people not like Roman? The man beat almost everybody, including The Undertaker. Venus says, great show by WWE. Roman versus Brock was so cool. Fights. Brock says, not that Brock, but Brock says, LOL, Roman cheated. Jacob said, Roman Empire is the best team. Win here, my man. Am Africa. Fitness by Hasib says, Brock is old. To be fair, I wish I looked like Brock Lesnar when I was his age. The guy's, he looked unbelievable, didn't he? For a guy that's been out of the ring so long, he looked absolutely unbelievable. But look, guys, all right, we'll wrap things up here. I've been chatting for like 5 hours. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak for you again very soon. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner.